Hey everyone, Kareem Rae here, and today I have Giuseppe Gentile, who is a former professional footballer who has played in the MLS and now the founding partner at Chyn Sports on with us. Giuseppe, how's it going?
Hey, Kareem. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate your time and appreciate what you're doing. And yeah, thanks for having me on.
Likewise, thank you for joining us. So can you just take us back in time and share how you got involved into the beautiful game?
Yeah, so I've actually been playing football or soccer my whole life. So when I was 5 years old, my parents involved me in the local club back in Switzerland. And yeah, that's kind of how it started. And I fell in love with it immediately. And I always had like this desire to, keep pushing and keep going. And I never really fell out of love. Um, so I just continued my path until I was about 15. And then I had an opportunity to move over to the United States. Since I'm a dual citizen, I wrapped up high school, continued playing soccer in high school in Charlotte, North Carolina. And then I ended up getting an opportunity to play Division I soccer at UNC Charlotte. I had a successful college career, which allowed me to get drafted into the MLS as a junior. So I got drafted by the Chicago Fire in 2014. And then I had multiple destinations. So as certain people who are familiar with the US soccer culture and structure, I got traded quite often. I got picked up by several other teams relatively quickly as well when I was out of contract. So it's quite a common thing compared to in Europe, where you kind of sign longer contracts or just guaranteed contracts without any types of trades or any types of release clauses and stuff like that. It's more of a guaranteed contract. So yeah, after 8 years of playing professional soccer, I unfortunately had to retire due to health reasons. So I had 4 knee surgeries, and which definitely slowed me down a lot. But the one injury that kind of forced me to retire at 27 was or sorry 28 was a concussion. So I was out for about 6 months, and then when I recovered, there wasn't really much time left in the season for me to really find any type of value. And yeah, I just kind of fell out of the system. And but in reality, I could tell my body was telling me to not continue. So I took it upon myself to retire. And then I actually got up with a former teammate of mine, Dennis Chyn, and we decided that it would be a good idea that we partner, and we started our own professional soccer agency. And it's actually coming up on being 1 year. So
Nice.
on June 1st, 2021, that's when we officially started. So it's like about 2 more weeks, and then yeah, I'm still in the game, but just in a different role now. So I'm very grateful for that I can still be involved in the game that I love, and that I've known my whole life. So that's kind of a little rundown of my story.
Nice. And the company was founded a year ago, as you mentioned. Why a soccer agency? You guys manage professional players, but why not a professional club or an academy? Why not anything else? Why an agency?
I'd say that me and my business partner Dennis Chin, we had a very good understanding of what we were good at, and I think that we both understood that we had good relationships with players and with executives of clubs, that every destination that we had in our career paths, we always left a positive impression. And by doing so over the years, we accumulated a lot of contacts, a lot of good relationships. And I think that we came to the conclusion that representing players would be the best form to use our connections. And you asked why not an academy or a football club or something like that. And I think that the initial, I guess, like, to start up something like that would require maybe a little bit more capital up front, which we both didn't really discuss, but I think that was kind of like out of the question regardless. Uh, but really the way that it initiated was actually through my business partner Dennis. So he actually came up with the idea to open up a agency, and he was basically telling me the vision, what he sees, and how he sees to get to achieve those goals, and I loved it. And he actually called me very, very early on when he was planning on starting to do this, and I just immediately partnered. And yeah, that's very, very broad, like, very general way how it formed. But in reality, him and I shared the same agent, so we had the same agent for throughout our career. And we had a really good connection with our agent, and we thought that probably that's a big reason on why we kind of stuck, or we kind of chose to take that path.
Got it. You mentioned that, operating an agency doesn't require that much capital. How much capital are you looking at operational wise, a yearly basis? Something that I'm interested to know personally.
It it's difficult to say. I think it depends on how many players um are, I guess, being requested to go on trial. And how it works in America is that many clubs do not take care of the traveling, don't take care of accommodations sometimes. So it really, really depends. It's a super duper broad spectrum. So it'd be really hard for me to tell you a number, but you do need to take some capital. You do need to take some upfront costs, in terms of, like, for sure, traveling to go visit teams or visit players. uh you know Probably it would be a good idea to kind of, manage to go to as many big events or important events as possible. For example, like, the MLS draft or combine, or, like, if there's any significant type of meeting, like in the soccer world, either in North America or in Europe, it would probably be wise to go to those types of events. And, like, just for example, like, this is, like, obviously extremely high end and exclusive, but if there were a chance for you to, somehow attain a ticket or something like that to go to, like, a Ballon d'Or, or to, like, any type of soccer specific event, those are probably really wise investments. And also, attending soccer matches, scouting players, getting introductions through either former teammates or, former coaches, um, to just get an acquaintance in the club. And then you kind of, build and groom the relationships over time. And then you just continuously do that with different clubs and different people. And that's just kind of how you go about and grow the business. So that's why it's extremely hard for me to really give you a number. But if I had to guess, you know, I'd say your expenses will exceed your revenue, your income for the first year. So I'd say probably around, ballpark, like 15,000. Just
15,000.
Yeah, just to get everything up and running with a website, with like, if you really don't have that network, you have to acquire it. And by acquiring a network is you have to put yourself out there. You have to get in front of people. And traveling is not expensive.
Yeah.
Hotels are not cheap. Traveling is expensive. So yeah, and for players too. Like, if a player just got out of college, you could imagine the kid's broke. Um, and you believe in the player. Yeah, you're gonna have to buy him a $300 ticket to going to A, B, C, or D destination. And then if the club, if you're lucky, or it's a bad, I formulated it poorly. If the club is more professional, they will have accommodations for the player. But there has been situations where the club doesn't provide accommodations, so the player has to get themselves to and from the airport, which is probably another $30 Uber or whatever, and then another hotel stay. So that you everything goes, man. And then there's also teams fly you in, accommodate you,
Mhm.
pay for your food. It's everything, man. It's just like either they take care of everything, some things, or nothing.
Right. Um, and you have a great experience of 8 years in your professional career, now transitioning into an intermediary, uh, which is a big piece in the game of football, right? In
Mhm.
order for players to go pro, they need an agent or intermediary to manage their career. Would you recommend all players that want to go pro to get an agent or intermediary?
To be honest, there's no like straightforward path how you're gonna reach the pro level. There are some players that might benefit from having an agent, and then there might be some players that, to be honest, their connections are solid enough, or their game speaks for itself, which will open up the door way easier than you being a lesser player, which is quite obvious. But um, it's a trick question. I mean, I'm gonna go ahead and say no. Not every player would benefit from having an agent.
Mhm.
I actually brokered my like two of my own deals as a player, and how it happened was I got into the MLS, and then when I was in MLS, I got released, and then when I got released, because of my reputation and like just word of mouth, another club already had contacted me directly, uh, inquiring about me potentially joining their club. So I actually brokered that deal myself. And then, you do well the next season, and people just start asking their network about this specific player. And if there's no one involved, no agent, they contact you directly. Um, so no, it's not necessary. It's not. But is it advisable? I would say it can be advisable, because by you negotiating your own deal, sometimes you could potentially damage the relationship with the person that you are negotiating with. Like, for example, if the head coach is also the GM, and you're negotiating your own contract with the general manager, which is also the head coach, you potentially could leave some sort of, image of yourself towards the head coach or the general manager, that's not truly who you are. You're just being hard in the negotiation process, which potentially might look, or the director or the GM or the head coach will take it bad, like poorly, right? Like, for example, if you're not happy with a $3,000 salary per month, and you want a $3,500 salary per month, and they're keep negotiating, and they keep telling you on why they can't do it, and you just keep being stubborn and stubborn and stubborn as a player, and you don't agree to anything below 3,500, they could potentially label you as, well, he's a greedy player, or or he doesn't compromise, he's selfish, he's not reasonable, and those are things that you as a player don't want to be stigmatized as. And that's where an agent can be very helpful, because the agent can say whatever they want to the team, and if the team is interested in this player, they will go and negotiate, also in favor of the player, um just because supply and demand, right? Like, if the team really wants this player, they will they will basically give the player what they want. And if you do find a happy medium, the club also feels like, hey, like, thank you for brokering this deal, we don't think we would have gotten it done without you. So
Mm.
there are some positives and negatives to both, in my personal experience.
Yeah, great points. And there's a lot of supply, as you know, around the world.
Mhm.
Very few
That's
clubs.
right.
Um,
That's right.
Players, from my understanding, and players I've talked, well, I won't want to say that, but usually players are going to want to take that opportunity that they get because there's very few.
That's
Um,
right.
and you mentioned a trend that I've noticed being on the outside. I mean, just being on the off the pitch and talking to a
Mhm.
lot of players, is that you mentioned when you got picked up by the MLS after that season, that more and more clubs were interested because you had that proof. You had a proven track record to be picked up by MLS and
Right.
be valued as a division. MLS is Division 1, so a Division 1 player in the United
Right.
States. which makes you more valuable to other clubs. So like I've noticed in the MLS draft, the players that don't get picked up by the MLS clubs, clubs like in Canada, the CPL or USL Championship or USL One are picking up these players because, just because MLS doesn't want them, they're going to take them too because MLS has given them that proof of a D1 player.
Right.
Nice.
Yeah, that's a very valid point. Yeah. So obviously something that is very important for a player is their CV, right? And a CV is just, for someone who might not know what it is, it's just your curriculum, which just means like your different types of destination. Very in very basic terms is your education, right? Like what kind of footballing education do you carry with you? So like where have you learned like how to play football? Like what system did you grow up coming from, or under which coach have you played, which club have you played for, how many minutes, and like which positions, etc., right? So you just have like your resume of what clubs or what kind of education or experiences you have acquired over your career. And to your point, usually when you have a Division 1 stamp on your CV, lower tier teams will instantly give you the benefit of the doubt and credibility due to the fact that you have played at a higher level than where they already are at. It doesn't work for everyone, so you can't put everything in the same category, but the majority of players that are playing, for example, in North America and MLS or in the CPL, they will get that benefit of the doubt to USL clubs, and they'll be like, hey, like they have proven themselves in this market, which we already know what the quality of the market is like. We will give this player the benefit of the doubt already because he has played at this level, which is a very, very important point. You're coming from up down instead of coming from down up, which is a big difference in negotiating a contract, I guess the credibility that you are giving out, right? So teams definitely look at that for sure.
Got it. Can you share like what does negotiating look like with you said a club director or a sports director? Who would you be negotiating with when you're talking to a club for a player for a player's behalf?
Yeah, it depends. It varies from club to club. So some clubs have their head coach also be the general manager at the same time, or you initiate contact with the sporting director or the general manager. There's several people that are competent, or I guess in a position in a club to negotiate a contract. So it just really depends on who your reference is, who are you referring to. So it's like, for example, if your connection in the club would be, for example, the president of the club, the president can negotiate a contract, but he'll probably give the negotiation process over to the general manager because that's the assignment of the general manager. But that doesn't mean that you negotiate every contract with a general manager. That's just usually how it goes. In North America, in MLS now it's changed a lot, but like in USL still, it's very common, or it is common in general, that the head coach is also the general manager. So you could be negotiating with the quote unquote GM, which is also the head coach, or you could be negotiating with the head coach, which is the general manager. So you know what I mean? So it really does depend. I mean, I've negotiated a contract with an assistant coach before, because I didn't have an affiliation or any type of connection to the head coach or the general manager, but I had a direct link to the assistant coach that I had played with in the past or played for in the past. And for our players, it also depended. Like I negotiated a contract this year directly with the head coach and with another club, and it was the general manager. So for players that are looking to negotiate their own deals, you just need an in at the club. So would it be the assistant coach, the general manager, the president, the head coach, the sporting director if they have one? Dude, even you can even the starting point can even start off with a teammate, and then the teammate goes to a technical staff member, and then that's how you start the process. Like, for example, if you're a player from a certain national team, let's say, for example, Haiti, Trinidad, Jamaica, like a Caribbean club, a Caribbean national team, and you have a teammate that you believe is very strong, but they're playing in their domestic league, which is not very popular, but is a very strong league. Like, good quality players come out of the Caribbean. Let's say from a small club in Haiti or a small club in Jamaica or a small club in Trinidad. Obviously, the financial part is very low, so they don't really get that much exposure. But they're constantly with the national team, and you have a teammate that's playing in the USL or in the MLS. A lot of times what happens is those teammates collaborate and talk to each other, and then they go on to a technical staff, assistant coach, a head coach, a director, a general manager, and they initiate the process of negotiating the contract or negotiating a pathway to get into the club. And essentially, the majority of the contracts do get negotiated by the general manager, but that's just not always the case.
Got it. Are you guys, for your agency, are you guys focused on North America, or are you guys focused on all markets?
We're focused on all markets, but I think that our strongest market is North America, like including CPL, including because I personally played in Canada, so did my business partner. We actually both played in NASL, which is no longer a league, unfortunately. We played at the Ottawa Fury, which is now, technically speaking, Ottawa Atletico.
Yeah, in the CPL,
which right? That's CPL, right? And they play in the same stadium, in TD Stadium in Ottawa, and yeah, it's I love what Canada's doing, man. I really do. I love it. I love the fact that they're starting their own league, or they started their own league, and that it's growing. And I loved my experience in Canada, man. I really, really did. People are really nice. They deserve a top tier level in their country, because I mean, look at what they did this year with qualifying in the World Cup. I mean, they had 60, 70K fans in the freezing cold in Edmonton, and I think what was in Nova Scotia, like all over Canada, man. They were just die hard, any weather, any conditions. They're just out there in the freezing cold supporting the Canadian team. And dude, they have this fantastic pool of players now that, it's very exciting to see how Canada is growing as, let's say, the little brother to the United States, which Canada qualified ahead of the States, which if you both qualify is fine. It's great. But, Canada really, really improved a lot in the last few years.
Yeah, 100%. I'm here in Canada too, in the GTA. And everyone that comes to Canada loves Canada. Like, they love,
Yeah.
the people are really nice here, and it's a safe place to live in. And in regards of Ottawa, I think the ownership group is interesting because part of the ownership is from Atletico Madrid from Spain, right?
Yeah,
That
that's right.
club in the CPO. That's interesting, and I haven't looked too
Yeah.
deep into that, but that's nice. And yeah, there's a big push for soccer in Canada. They're looking to make it the #1 sport here in Canada soon, supposedly, Alfonso Davis said. So, and
I had a hockey.
pardon? I had a
I
hockey.
had a
I
hockey.
know. I mean, but look,
Mm,
2026, the World Cup's going to be hosted by Canada, US, and Mexico. So that's a big
that's
push.
gonna be a big deal. That's a big
Yeah,
deal. That's a
massive.
big deal. I mean, 94 really changed the US a lot. Like, and then in 96, they started MLS, or 97.
Mhm.
In 97, I think. And obviously, a lot of people don't know this, but MLS almost failed. Like,
Yeah.
almost went bankrupt. And one very rich, I think it was, if I'm not mistaken, don't quote me on this, but I think it was Kraft, kind of saved
Mhm.
MLS by buying 3 or 4 franchises. And it was like the OG teams. It was like DC United, Chicago Fire, Crew, and then maybe like there was some other teams, but like MLS did not do well at the beginning. Like, when they first started, like, don't quote me on anything but this. At the beginning, when MLS started, they struggled a lot. Like, there was just not much interest for soccer. But then over time, it steadily started growing, and now people really caught on. Like,
Yeah.
finally, I'd say in the 2010 to 2015, that's where it really caught on. And then from 2015-16 on, it just exploded. Like, it just boom, like huge. Like once Atlanta United came in, like boom, like
Massive.
huge growth, man, huge growth. And I think a very large part that helped Atlanta's success, and this is obvious, is money, of course, but is the affiliation with the Falcons. The NFL, the NFL demographic, and also the money and resources from the NFL team really helped support the soccer team. And then guess who else is doing that now? Charlotte FC with the Panthers.
Oh yeah, right, with the stadium too, right? Yeah.
Yeah, that's right, exactly. And dude, I went to school in Charlotte. I went to high school in Charlotte, and I always knew Charlotte was a huge soccer city. Like in the Southeast, huge soccer hub, huge, huge, huge. But then the Charlotte Independence came in USL. Dude, they were maybe selling out like 2,000 tickets a game. And then all of a sudden, MLS comes to town with the Panthers backing them, and like, the whole hype and everything. 80K first game. So
80,000 people, like the stadium fits 80,000 people.
I think even more, but the record was
95,000,
set.
95,000 was it?
I think the record for the first ever MLS game or something like that, or the game in general, it was like 80K, and they beat that. I think they started off their first ever home game with like the largest crowd, I think, of all time.
That's crazy. That's crazy. The
It's
amount of
pretty,
revenue and ticket sales, jersey sales. Wow, wow, wow.
yeah,
The
it's
stadium's
pretty
really
cool,
nice,
man.
though. The stadium's nice.
Beautiful. It's beautiful. State of the art, man. It's beautiful.
Wow. I didn't know that. Obviously, I didn't know that because I didn't do the research of the MLS in the beginning. But I know now that, like, the franchise fee to get in is like, well, they're capping at 30 teams, but the franchise fee is like 300 million to 350.
And
Google that.
and USL used to be really cheap to buy into compared to NASL. So that's why certain teams started buying into USL instead of NASL. And obviously NASL got like kind of run out of competition, or out of like, yeah, they couldn't compete anymore because teams were starting to buy into USL, and they also collaborated and partnered with MLS, which you can't compete with MLS just because they were already really established at that point. And to your point with the MLS franchise fee, USL has gotten really expensive. Like, it used to be so cheap, and like now you're paying over 10-15 million just for the franchise to join USL, and that's the second tier league. That's a lot of money, man.
Yeah, well, if I know that USL Championship's 15 million franchise fee, and then USL
Yeah,
One is way a bit cheaper, is 5 million franchise fee. So
dude. And
USL One's not, well, USL Championship is closed right now, or capped at the amount of teams that they want to have. And USL One, they're looking to expand to 25 to 30 teams by the end of for 2025.
yeah.
So there's room in USL One. I was going to ask, what are your thoughts on USL One?
To be quite honest, I love every opportunity and any type of professional platform that they're providing in the United States for players. I support it. Now, the soccer landscape in the United States has completely changed since I entered the game. So when I turned pro, it was like USL One or something like that, USL Pro or something like that, and then there was the NASL, and then there was MLS, of course. But now, you know, the teams are so much more established, and they have plans with what they want to do. So, like, for example, a drafted player in the MLS nowadays won't get released as quickly because he'll just get signed and then get loaned out to the second team, which in MLS Next, which gives the player a lot more a higher chance of sticking around. Whereas before, really early days, even before my time, it was just like draft, oh, he's not going to work out, just release. And then sign for a year, a semi-guaranteed contract, which they could release you by June of the and in July, start July, your contract becomes guaranteed, and then they can't release you till the end of the year. So a lot of the times teams will cut you by June. That was like old school MLS, but now they're starting to hand out guaranteed contracts for the whole season. And the minimum wage has significantly gone up. Like it's so much better than where it was in the past, which is amazing. And USL finally, the championship finally got their own first bargaining agreement, which is amazing.
When you
Shout
say
out to all my,
sorry,
sorry.
when you to cut you off, but when you say bargaining agreement, what is that?
Well, the USL and the players have like this formal relationship now, that there's this union in place for the player on the players' behalf. So the players union, the USLPA, negotiated with the league for the first time minimum conditions that the clubs have to provide for players.
And
So,
like,
I'm sorry.
when you say provide for the players in minimum salary, or like this is the criteria, you got to provide housing, car, blah blah blah.
Right. Yeah, minimum compensation, meaning like package deal, like a value that they're providing to the player. The minimum value that they have to provide for a player currently today is $2,800 per month, which can include rent, health insurance, and salary. So the minimum that a club is allowed to pay out to a player today is $2,800 a month.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. And you're
Yeah.
saying, and that just happened 2021, or
This, I believe, this is the first year. It was negotiated in 21, active 22.
and you said USL had a conversation with USLP,
USLPA,
USLPA,
USL Players Association.
and is that under the same umbrella of USL, or is that something separate?
Well, it's like the MLSPA. It's just like the Players Association. It's like the Players Union. The Players Union is just basically an organization that works on the behalf of players to basically basically secure, or I guess keep the players safe from clubs taking advantage of contracts. So like, for example, like before, without the agreement, clubs could give you a $500 contract or a pay to play contract, which means you don't get paid until you can make an appearance. So now with this bargaining agreement in place with a $2,800 minimum, if you sign to a USL club, they have to give you a minimum value of $2,800. So that means they can give you $1,000 in salary, but they have to give you $1,000 place and then $800 health insurance coverage, which will give them the minimum criteria. Or there's a bunch of ways that they can compensate and calculate the $2,800. They can also allot a $400 food budget for the team. So let's say, well, we're gonna allot per player $400 per month, and then every player is gonna get a lunch after training for the month, every day for all trainings. You know what I mean?
Makes sense.
So it could just be in value. It has to be a minimum, and I believe it's $2,800 now.
Makes sense. And I just want to confirm the USLPA, so Player Association, that's still okay. Yeah, so it still is connected to USL. USL still controls that organization or entity, USLPA.
No, it's separate. It's a separate entity. So it's like it has nothing to do with the USL itself. Like USL is the league, and the USLPA is an organization that represents the players.
But my question is that USL still owns that entity, though. That separate
No,
organization. No, who's that
no.
owned by?
It's not owned by anyone. It's just it's an organization formed to protect players.
Okay, got it. Okay.
Yeah, so like basically every single player in USL can go to a USLPA representative and basically complain about something that the team or the club is not holding up. Like, hey, in our bargaining agreement, we need to get a minimum compensation of 2,800. They're only giving me a value of 2,000. And then the union will go to the league and say, hey, this club is not paying our players what we agreed upon, and then the league will kick in and say, hey guys, you guys need to do this because this is what the agreement says. But before, without our organization, without the players union, there was no one keeping the clubs or the league in check.
Got it.
So so basically speaking, what the USLPA would definitely help players with is, like, for example, a strike. Like, if the players were to strike because the conditions or the bargaining agreement isn't fair, players will strike, and then the league will be on hold.
Got it. And where did they do all this? Is there a specific website that all the players and coaches and agents are able to go to reach out to them, or is that an app?
Yeah, no, so it's I honestly, the union was being formed when I was leaving. So in 2019, when I stopped playing, that's when it was being formed. And then I think it officially formed in 2020. And then the first bargaining agreement happened in 21, which is now active in 22. And because I haven't really been in the league anymore and I haven't really been as involved, I actually don't really have too much details on the USLPA, but I do know that they do have a website. So it would just be USLPA, probably .com or .org. I don't know for certain, don't quote me on it, but you can also find them on Instagram and on Twitter. They are active there, and I actually know the guys that started it, and I'm very grateful for it because they do a great job. They're good guys. They're really good guys.
Nice. I'd be interested to know offline, like who they are, but I don't know where this. Oh, it's right here. So I went on the website, the agency website. I seen that you also manage a Instagram page called Footy's Finest, which has 1 million plus followers, which is a massive following. Can we talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so that's actually a little bit outdated because I actually stopped doing that after I took on this position as a partner, but I'll gladly touch up on that. So I actually was doing, when I stopped playing, I actually kind of got into social media marketing a little bit. So I kind of got into the game of growing big accounts, like soccer accounts. Like this, it was specifically soccer niche, uh anything football related, like just funny stuff or just rumors, transfer rumors, and football cleats, new rumors of jerseys, like just everything football, like, and then like videos and clips and everything of goals and assists and just good plays and stuff. But then over time, Instagram became very, very, very copyright sensitive. So it's like, basically everything was being copy striked, and then it was very easy for you to lose your account. So over time, I actually just started removing myself more and more. But how I got onto Footy's Finest was that through my journey of growing Instagram accounts, I had like 3 accounts that I was growing, and I got one to about like 250K, and then like one was about like 100K, and then the other one was like 80K. So I was doing a good job with those, and those were growing. So I sold all of those, and I just became a managing partner. So it's like I didn't really own the account. I just was managing the account, and I just was in charge of posting content. Basically, I was in charge of yeah, basically business development, like, because it was a large account. So what I did was I actually grew a very large professional soccer players network on Footy's Finest. So I started following a bunch of professionals, started reaching out, and I started trying to connect high-end professional players with the page. And in exchange for associating players with the page, I would like shout them out on stories. I would I would post their highlights, or a good goal they would score, like a good play or like an achievement. And it actually really grew into this really nice community over time. And yeah, I already joined when the account already had 1 million followers, but I kind of brought like this kind of professional aspect to the site, and I was really really passionate about it. And I did it for a little bit over a year. Did like a year and a few months, like a little bit less than a year and a half. But like we were coming up with jerseys and different type of merchandise that we were wanting to sell. which never unfortunately came to fruition. But I do have a lot of samples. They're actually really cool.
Send them,
Um,
send them to me if you don't mind. I'd love to see them. Like
yeah,
a
yeah,
picture or something. Yeah.
yeah. No, I for sure. I have tons of pictures. Yeah, I'll send them for sure. And yeah, unfortunately, it never launched because I had a lot on my plate, and I really wanted to get it right. Like, you can't just like start selling merchandise if it's like not gonna hold up, or if it's too expensive, and like I we couldn't really launch. It didn't feel right. But yeah, the page was really cool, man. But the thing is, social media is so toxic. It's just like, it's just all of the comments that you would read. It's pretty bad. So it's just not something that someone would tell you in real life. Like, if you were meeting someone face to face, they would never say half of the stuff that they say online. So it's
Yeah.
it's it's a weird environment, or like a weird channel, or it's like a weird form of communication. So you got to take everything with a grain of salt.
100%. Um, and besides selling all those accounts, was there any other ways that you guys were monetizing? I know you mentioned the jerseys, but were there any other things that you guys were monetizing, or was that it?
Well, back in the day when it was profitable, I'd say like 5 years ago, shout outs were really, 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 really good. The thing is, Instagram's algorithms and just policies and just a lot of things changed over the years, especially to, control those types of services, or those types of things that they wanted to avoid. Um, it started becoming really weird. So imagine you have a million followers on your account, and because the algorithm kept changing, you started getting less and less reach from your followers. So people would stop seeing your content, and stop seeing your stories. So
Mm,
it's like, at some point it was like a 30% engagement. So think about it, from 1 million, 30%, like, that's 300K
mhm.
people viewing your stories, viewing your posts, engaging with your content, to all of a sudden to 10%, like, in within a year or two. So it's like a drastic drop. And you can imagine, with the not only the engagement drop, but also their interactions with your posts. So the engagement meaning, like, the interaction meaning, sorry, people clicking on your tags. So it's like, if you would tag a player, from the 300K people viewing your story, maybe 10K will click on the link, or on the tag. So all of a sudden, 100K view your story, and then all of a sudden only like 2,000 are clicking on the link. So it's like a huge drop off, due to a lot of different reasons, and one being the algorithm, and for two, Instagram was really pushing their Facebook ads, so they really wanted you to just buy ads.
Mm.
So yeah, it kind of died down. So that's another reason why I decided it just wasn't worth my time. And I really, really, really enjoyed it. I did, but it was just for fun. In reality, it wasn't really a job.
Ah, I wish I was taking it, like, doing what I was doing in that time, man. Damn. That
Yeah,
would have been making some money at least. Right now it's like zero, just all networking basically. But
yeah, it's tough. It's tough.
going back to the, yes, yeah, of course, going back to the agency, how many players are you guys managing before we come towards the end here? How many players are you guys managing?
We officially have 14 players signed. So we manage all of them. And it's really, really cool, man. It's like, you have, like, obviously a unique relationship with all of them. You came across all of your players through a different way. So it's pretty cool, man. And like, players from all over the world. It's cool stuff.
And can you just mention the leagues that these players are playing in that you guys manage?
Yeah. So currently, we actually, for the starting point, we really did want to get players into other markets, but we channeled all of our energy really in the North American market. So we have um 4 players in USL Championship, 4 players in League One, and 1 player in League Two, USL League Two. I'm sorry. Um, One is still under contract at AC Milan, but he was with their youth system, but he's running out of contract now in July, I'm sorry. And 2 guys are actually under contract in Haiti, in their premiership, which is a good level, but they play for the national team, but we're trying to get them into another market.
Mm.
And one's playing in Switzerland, and then the last one is playing in Latvia.
Got it.
Yeah,
I'll ask you 2 more questions.
sure.
What are your thoughts on MLS Next Pro compared to what are your thoughts on MLS Next Pro, and are all players getting paid in that league?
Yeah, well, it's a professional league, so I definitely see there's benefits to MLS Next Pro that you could be in an MLS organization. So like by you being drafted by any MLS organization and then you go play MLS Next Pro, you're in a professional environment with the MLS club. You have the infrastructure from the MLS club, and you're getting minutes in a 3rd tier level, which is really, really good for a young player. So I think it's a fantastic thing.
Got it. And sorry, I'll add 2 more. Sorry.
You're good. No problem.
Second last one was you guys have players in different countries. How does managing look like? Is it hard, or do you guys have a system in place? Like what does managing the players look like?
Yeah, no, it's definitely hard. I mean, in the sense, it's challenging that every player goes through something unique. One player is doing really well at their club, one player is not playing, one player is injured, one player is extremely unhappy but playing, one player is extremely happy not playing. So it's a dynamic that is super duper unique to every single individual. So you can't really generalize. The things that you can anticipate is that if the player's playing, he'll be happier than if a player is not playing, is the general idea, but that's not always the case. There's some players that play less at a club and are genuinely happy with their situation there because they're enjoying the environment, they're enjoying the trainings, they're enjoying the teammates, the city, the coaching staff, the club, the organization, versus there's some players playing every minute of every game, but they're losing, or they don't like the coach, or they don't like the organization, they don't like the city, So it's definitely hard. It's a lot harder than what people give it credit for. People think that like, oh, hey, like, let me just move player from A to B and then let me just collect the commission, right? Which in reality is not that simple. It's not that straightforward.
Yeah. Yeah.
But to point out is a lot of fun. It really is.
Nice. Honestly, like I didn't like think it was that complex or dynamic as you were just saying. Like I understand like how it works, but because you're obviously in it and explaining it to me now, like it is complex. It is. And you're dealing
Yeah.
with a lot, so yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, man.
Damn, I don't think I wrote the last one. Oh, the last one was going to be because obviously you've had 8 years in the game and now being an agent, you understand what the players are going through. But what advice would you share with the next generation of footballers or soccer players growing up right now? What are 3 things that you would share with them that want to go pro?
Well, one thing I definitely would want to share, and I guess kind of, I hope this gives them some type of inspiration, is that this is probably the best time in US soccer history to ever become a professional, because there's so many more opportunities now than what there were even 5 to 10 years ago. You have upward 20 clubs in MLS Next Pro. You have 27, 28 MLS clubs. You have almost 30 or 25 upward USL Championship clubs. And now, like you said, up until 2025, you're going to have 25 to 30 USL League One clubs. That's a total of over 100 clubs in the professional ranks in the United States. And then you have comparable leagues like CPL and then League One that's coming in Canada as well. So you have over 100 professional clubs in North America to choose from, which is amazing. So my I guess advice to that is don't give up. Maybe as a freshman you're not playing in your first collegiate season. Maybe, you know, you're not fully developed yet at 18 versus you need a little bit more of a development period until you're 22. So college will do you good. So what I'm saying is really embrace every phase that you're going through, good and bad. Never give up. So that would be point one, because it is an optimistic point. Like right now, like we're at an optimistic point that the game is growing. It's not declining. So there's space needed. There's 25 roster spots, 24 roster spots on every single team. That's 2,400 spots,
Mhm.
which is way better than what any other, you know, American did or had in the past. Any other American in the past had to fight for probably 1,000, or, you know, maybe not 1,000, but like 1,500 spots,
Mhm.
which is significantly harder. Um, and then for two is, man, you just have to love the game, because the game is, it's so hard and it's unforgiving. Um, you can train so hard for years and years and years and get injured, get upset by disappointments of promises, false promises. Uh, Political things can happen. You know, yeah, just poor form. You're not taking advantage of your chances. So really, another advice is, next to not never giving up, is you have to love the game. Like, you, it genuinely has to come from the heart. You have to love football, ups and downs. And you have to love the downs more than the ups. And it sounds crazy, because when you're up, you appreciate it, you know, because you know what it feels like to be down. So I think it kind of, one and two kind of go hand in hand with never give up, and, like, you know, fall in love, or like love football, because like if you love football, you won't give up. But, you know, it's just kind of another pointer. And then for three, um, and this is something that I'm guilty of not doing, and I regret a little bit. And regret is not the right word, but just kind of, I wish I did more, is just appreciate it. Like, football is such a beautiful thing. It gives you so much joy. It's we call it the beautiful game for a reason. Appreciate it. Like, it has the ability to give you so much back. So just appreciate football, appreciate the opportunity that you have, that you're healthy enough to play football, because not everyone else in the world has the same ability for you, like you, to embrace this. Like, there's people who are, you know, just handicapped of some sort, and wish that they could live out the same dream as you, and all that they would give up, or all they would do, is just, I wish I was healthy enough to play. So appreciate it. So yeah, just one, never give up. Number two, love football. And number three, appreciate it.
Those are three great points. And I usually end it off with like 10 fun questions. Is that cool if we dive into that?
Yeah, of course, no problem.
Okay, cool. Who's your favorite team?
Juventus,
Favorite player?
Cristiano Ronaldo.
Favorite cleats?
Mercurial Vapors for the OGs, or Mercurial, well, so Mercurial Vapors up until Mercurial Superflies. So
Mm.
Mercurial Vapors OG, and then when the Superfly 1 came out, starting off Superfly.
Mm. Yeah, I like Superflies too, and Addy Zeros. I'm an Addy Zeros guy too. Um,
Yeah.
Favorite food?
Um, yes, I mean, I'm not very picky, but I do like Thai food. I like a little bit of spicy Thai food.
Yeah, Thai food's good. Favorite artist musically?
Oh, uh sounds weird. I'm not really that into music, but I do appreciate a lot of genres. I'm all over the place. So I like rap, hip hop. I like R&B. I like pop. Oof, that's a hard question, man. I can't give you an answer on that, but if I have to just say a artist that I like their style and stuff, I like Justin Bieber.
Okay, that's a Canada guy.
Yeah, it's Canadian dude.
Favorite artist? Oh, I asked you that one. Messi or Ronaldo?
Yeah, I've both.
You got to choose one.
Well, Ronaldo,
Okay.
but I'm not the type of person that's pro Ronaldo, anti Messi. I'm pro Messi and Ronaldo.
Yeah. Let's just say back you played FIFA back in the day.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah. Who's the first team that you would pick on FIFA?
Juve.
Juve, yeah.
Yeah.
Would you rather score 2 goals in a game or 1 goal and 1 assist?
2 goals.
Would you rather score a free kick or a PK last minute goal?
Free kick.
And if you were a coach and you were able to sub in any player to win you the game in history, who would it be?
Cristiano Ronaldo.
Ronaldo.
I mean, he would be a starter for me anyways, but if I had to choose any player that I could sub in, it would be him, but he would always be playing for me. I mean, there's even with one leg, this guy's on the field.
Yeah. Giuseppe, before we go, I want to thank you for taking the time for joining us on the One Soccer Nation podcast today.
Yeah, no, Kareem, I really appreciate you as well. Thank you for having me. And thank you for, giving guys a platform to share their story.
Thank you.